Hey, let's just change the focus here a little bit. On your LinkedIn, you call yourself obviously a professor at Lakehead University, but you also call yourself a humans dimension specialist. What is and your blog is human dimensions, where the phrase human dimension mentioned in it. What is human dimensions? How do you define that term?
Well, I define a human dimensions person as someone who looks at the natural environment and recognizes that people value it from a psychological, social, and cultural point of view. That there are management infrastructures of different sorts that mediate people's use of that natural environment successfully or unsuccessfully. And lastly, that natural environment can in fact affect the lives of people. And the most obvious example, I suppose, would be something like Orleans, which greatly changed things down there. I think those three things pretty much encompass the human dimension side. I would add, I suppose, that I see human dimensions as being a social science based sort of thing.
Okay.
I think that a human dimensions person could work quite effectively with a biologist, a marine biologist, and so on, because they would bring different tools to the work that they were doing, especially to the areas of the work they were doing which were common to them.
Absolutely. And actually, I'd like you to specify how social science, social scientists, and biologists can interact more for conservation needs. Why is it so important? Just tell the viewers why it's important that this interaction is crucial to the conservation process, and what exactly would it entail in terms of interaction.
Okay. Well, it seems to me to be pretty obvious that from a biologist's point of view, you need to know what's out there. If there is a coastal area, that's fine. And you also need to know how it all fits together, how it works together. So that if something is out of place, you have an idea about what will change. But from a social science perspective, you need to understand how people are using that area and why they're using it the way they are. What does it mean to them? Obviously, it means something perhaps economically, but it may mean something socially and perhaps even culturally. You put them together, and you begin to understand then why things occur the way they occur in those coastal areas. Why particular species of fish, for example, are highly sought, and others, though may perhaps more numerous, are not of interest at all to people. You understand how a change in the abundance of a particular species will affect the economic and social livelihoods of people who live nearby. Really, it's all tied into one. And to look at just the fishery, for example, and forget the fishers, just doesn't go far enough.
Right.
That doesn't get us at all into the situation we talked about earlier, where the people in that situation may in fact be Aboriginals who have either ungranted claims to that area, or who have claims that have been granted and have therefore a legitimate legal role to play in what happens there. Put those all together, and you can, with a biological input, a social science input, begin to understand how this all works. Some people now, especially in that journal Ecology and Society, talk quite sensibly about this social ecology, about how people and the natural ecosystem integrate, and how one supports the other or one changes the other. And I guess I see human dimensions and social science being pretty important in all.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask sort of an obvious question, but why wasn't this used in the past? It only seems recently that social science and biology, or I'll call it natural science, has been interacting on conservation. Why has it been in the past that they weren't talking? Was it just more of a you do your thing, we'll do our thing, and then we'll see what if it connects, then that's fine. If not, we'll worry about it later. Why wasn't it? Why weren't these two disciplines interacting, and what made them start interacting?
I think you put your finger to some degree there, because I think it has been the case in the past, and maybe is still presently, that the biologist is over there doing something, the social scientist over there doing something else, and the hope is that by accident it all sort of connects.
Right.
I think one of the reasons why I like the sort of social ecology frameworks that I've been seeing in that journal, Ecology and Society, is because there then is a kind of framework above all that that works to pull it all together. That and I think there is a probably better understanding as far as the development of legislation and policy now is concerned. And for that, I would sort of point to an agency like Parks Canada, which we know is interested in ecological integrity, especially in national parks, and to a lesser extent, perhaps, in marine protected areas. But there's also a very deep understanding there that people are going to go to these national parks, people are going to go to these marine protected areas, and that it's therefore necessary to manage and to understand those people and how they interact with the natural system. So I think it's two things. One is more science related, in that we're able to talk sensibly about these frameworks. The other is that there are institutional supports out there now for the kinds of things that we want to do, which perhaps weren't as strong before as they are now.
Right, and the importance really is that interaction. Social science and natural science, they just can't do conservation independently. It has to be done together.
Yeah, that's right. And while I'm on this topic about sort of support for this, it's interesting to note that the Natural Science and Engineering Research Council, one of three research bodies or funding bodies in Canada, recently made a change to its programs so that now it's possible for a grant holder to include 30% in terms of funding of the work in a grant being social science related. So that means that if you, for example, were to get an insert grant for a marine biological project, you might want to involve a social scientist to help you deal with the social science, the human dimensions aspects of the impact in that particular area where you were working. So that's another kind of I guess you would say, institutional support that hadn't been there before.
Right.
And I think this is pretty important stuff.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I was unaware of that. That's great news. A good positive, good movement in a positive direction.